welcome to my first ever Raw review episode. So today's Raw episode was nothing crazy, nothing special. The ending was the only thing that really mattered towards the end to the Rumble. I mean, everything else was kind of just the same old, trying to keep the story afloat and trying to keep everyone aware of what the story was. But the start of the show, it obviously was going to start off with Roman cutting a promo about how it's one versus all and his whole gimmick. And then he calls out Lesnar. He decides to call out Lesnar, and then Jericho's music hits. And I wasn't expecting Jericho. I was actually expecting Lesnar to come down. So Jericho says, look, he's better than Brock to talk to right now, and some shit like that. And Roman basically said, with respect, that I'm not interested in you at all I want is Brock, which, I don't know, it seems like they're just pushing so hard for Lesnar and Reigns at Mania again, and I don't really like that. Anyway, Jericho plugs the highlight reel and says he wants the top 3 contenders in the Rumble, himself, Lesnar, and Reigns. Reigns says, look, if Brock's there, I'm there. And then the League of Nations comes out and they start talking shit, saying, how can you forget about us? I didn't even know that was their theme song. When I was writing this script down, I just heard the music and I didn't recognize who it was at all. I thought it was some random people debuting, to be honest. So they come out, they talk trash, and they do the whole heel thing and basically say that they're better and they're going to win and all this kind of shit. And then it ends up turning into a match between Rusev and Roman. The match itself was nothing great. The best thing about it was probably Chris Jericho doing a cartwheel to kick out Barrett. Other than that, Jericho was obviously the guest referee. If you didn't get that, I forgot to mention that before, kicking Barrett out with the cartwheel. But other than that, I mean, it just looks like it's going to be Brock versus Roman. I kind of want to see it as Triple H versus Roman at Mania, just because then I can have my dream match of Lesnar and Owens, just because they're my favourite. But other than that, nothing else really to talk about that match. There was a backstage segment after the commercial. Went back to Jericho walking through backstage, and Steph comes in, and she's complaining about how dare you make decisions. It's not 1999, and basically cuts him down after everything he says because it's the same old material, which I thought was a good touch. I mean, he has been rehashing a lot of the old stuff. Not that I don't like that, it's just what he's been doing. And then, complains about how Steph has to talk to Brock and has to talk to Heyman and pay Brock more money. And then she basically just says, you know what, it ended up being pretty good, but if you continue to do this, you'll never ever be the same, using his own line against him. And just further, it was confusing with Jericho because he came back at Night of Champions as like a heelish, edgy Jericho, which I would have much preferred over this PG face Jericho with all these stupid ass chants. But next up, it goes to the next match, and it's Brie Bella versus Natalya. And I was very excited to hear that Natalya was returning when the music came up. And when Brie was coming down, they didn't stop talking about Total Divas, so I was like, it's going to be another Total Divas wrestling match. Great. Thankfully, since it was a Total Divas segment, it only went for like 3 minutes, I think. And I much would have preferred Natalya to wrestle a longer match, but she came out with Paige, which the last time that they saw each other, they were like hating, like Paige like beat the shit out of her backstage and like caused her to get an injury, and that wrote her off TV for a bit, and then we didn't see Natalya on TV, and then she comes back and returns with the person that injured her. That, unless I'm remembering it wrong, it just seems like they just don't care about anyone else except for Charlotte and Becky at the moment. They cut back to the little magical wheel of balls that Vince couldn't break, because why the fuck would he? And it was for the Royal Rumble draw. And they were going to tease who was going to draw number 1. It was blatantly obvious that it was going to be Roman. So they draw 1, and then it was Roman. And then they go, no, that's not right, can't be fair. They put it back, and then they draw another one, and of course it's Roman after Vince struggles to open up a capsule for like the 14th time on TV. And then they put it back, it's Roman, so it's obviously the Authority screaming Roman over, making him enter at number 1, so he actually has to verse all 29 superstars sort of thing. Complete waste of time, to be honest. It took way too long because he couldn't open up any of the capsules, and it was just like, they didn't have to do it 4 times. They could just said that Roman enters in a number 1 and give off a cheeky grin to the camera, and it would have been fine. So we move on to the next match between the Dudleys and Ryback versus the Wyatt family, with Braun Strowman not in the match officially. So it's just Rowan, Harper, and Brie. I mean, the whole feud with the Dudleys and the Wyatts has kind of just been Like, there's not really been much story behind it. Like, seeing Tommy Dreamer and Rhino and all that turn up on the main roster was cool. They had their good little run, but like, they should have just ended it there. And they just, whenever they don't know what to do with the Wyatts or the Dudleys, they'll just put them together in a match on Raw, it seems, and SmackDown and all that. But other than that, man, it seemed like it was an okay match. There was nothing really wrong with it. But at the end of it, the Wyatts looked really good. They looked like a really strong tag team in a good sequence at the end of the match. And after the match show on the on the ramp, and they were talking about how Wyatt's going to control the Rumble, and the Rumble is his match. And I never really thought of him as a Rumble winner, just because he doesn't really. For one, he never wins much of his big matches, and he hasn't won a title as Bray Wyatt. The Wyatts haven't won a title on the main roster. I know that they won the NXT tag, but other than that, the Wyatts came out looking strong. Ryback didn't have much to do in the match, which I'll always love because I don't like Ryback as a wrestler, but either way. Alright, match 4, the Social Outcast, actually Heath Slater, versus the Big Show. I was kind of hoping that the Social Outcast would pull an upset here. I think it's a great idea that they've got all these 4 different personalities, and I didn't try and change them. They just kept them the same. Like, Axel always says off that he's never been eliminated from the Rumble. He's still doing that. And then Bo Dallas is kind of like playing like the baby face, but is the heel because he's so annoying at it. Like, he's trying to be the good guy and then be annoying with it. Slater's just being Slater, and Adam Rose is just being this weird ass creep that keeps touching Slater. The match itself was pretty shit, to be honest. I mean, only because of the way it was done. Slater basically got chucked around the ring like he was an old jobber, and Show wins, destroys the entire faction itself. Bo Dallas basically comes up to challenge the Big Show, runs off the ropes, ducks under a clothesline, and gets out and takes a victory lap. And then as he runs around, pretty much the first corner, gets knocked out by Big Show. And really, to put over Big Show, face turn, whatever the hell he is at the moment, it just didn't make that much sense, and it just seemed like it was just a waste to bury the Social Outcast even more. Backstage, the League of Nations and Steph are talking, and she's kind of amping everyone up, doing her usual, you're all winners, you've all won before, and all that kind of crap. Just a filler, nothing real important. And then Charlotte and Ric Flair come down on the ring to watch Becky versus Tamina. Now, Tamina had this weird intro song. I didn't know what that was either. But Becky had some cool entrance gear, like a totem pole sort of jumper on. That was pretty dope. The match itself was alright. Not like the great matches we've seen from the women's division last year, but that's fine. It's just a Raw. It's not supposed to be match of the year on a Raw show. She wins in a pretty unique way with the flip off the turnbuckle into it wasn't really a flip, it was just more like an armbar roll off second rope. But yeah, it picks up, and then Becky grabs the mic, and she cuts a really good promo. I mean, the promo from last week when she was genuinely pissed off about what happened was great. She's really picked it up for me. Becky is my favorite female wrestler at the moment on the main roster. I really hope she beats Charlotte at the Rumble, just because I want my favorite wrestlers to win. I just don't see it happening. to be honest. And just Becky talks smack to Rick, saying that Charlotte's just a little skirt, pretty much, saying she just hides, she runs from a fight, and then she brings up the fact that would all like the old school legends respect Charlotte in the way that Rick has sort of helped Charlotte become the heel, obviously, and then he kind of goes off in a flip and accepts the challenge for Charlotte, and then in focus it has Rick doing his woo thing. He's jumping around doing woo, and then you see Charlotte in the background have like this really concerned face. And with the amount of momentum that she's been gaining, with the momentum that Becky's been gaining, I just really think Becky might win at the Rumble match. Kalisto and Dean Ambrose versus Sheamus and Del Rio. This match itself was nothing too great. It just seemed like more filler. The only thing great about it was that Owens was on commentary, and I can never get enough of Owens on commentary or mic or promos. Or he's just such a good talker and great to listen to, just like Punk was. Punk was a great personality to have on the commentary table. So basically, Kalisto and Ambrose show off some sort of tag team moves together, just the typical tag team stuff. I don't really like Byron Saxton on commentary, to be honest. So seeing someone like Kevin Owens come on and just completely destroy him was perfect in my eyes. Like, that cannot get any better. I'm really enjoying Kalisto more as a single wrestler than a tag team with Sin Cara, to be honest. I've always thought that he would be a better singles wrestler. Del Rio hit a pretty crazy spot, jumping off the announce table, hitting an enziguri on Ambrose. And like, when I first watched that, that's like one of the first spots I was just like, holy shit. Like, that seemed legit. It seemed like he just fucking kicked him right in the bottom of the jaw. But anyway, after that, Ambrose was out, and then Sheamus pretty much just fucks over Kalisto with a bro kick, then wins. Then the next segment was New Day. The New Day holds a funeral for Francesca the Trombone. Pretty much anything the New Day does is just absolutely amazing. The promo's gold. You can't get wrong with it. Then it cuts off to an ad, and then it was the next match, which was Big E versus Jey Uso, which Xavier Woods confirms in the previous promo with Francesca's funeral. Big E as a wrestler overall, I think he's he's very, very talented for not doing it for so long. Like, he mentioned in like the table for three that he was like a footballer before he came in? I can't remember. It's been a while since I watched that. I think he said he was a footballer before he came in. Years in NXT. He's been doing it for a couple of years now though, but I think he's one of the better, more fluent moving, bigger guys on the roster compared to someone like Ryback, he's just, I don't like Ryback. But anyway, the match itself was really entertaining. I mean, you can't go wrong with New Day and Usos together. Big E went for the splash in the apron, and Uso moved, and that looked painful. And then he went to do a suicide spear through the second rope, and then moved, and then he looked like he landed on his hip awkward. So he took two massive looking bumps in there. But either way, it was a really fun match, and Big E won in the end. Match 8. This is just horrible. Neville, Henry, Titus, and Truth versus Ascension, Breeze, and Stardust. Pretty much everyone in that creative have no idea what to do. There was nothing really crazy about this besides the botch from Titus to Henry chucking Breeze way too over Henry's head. Neville hits the red arrow and wins. That's pretty much it. For the final segment of the night was the highlight reel, which was amped up to be the biggest highlight reel ever, which it was. Jericho comes down and talks about how Roman Reigns is the champion, and same thing that they said at the start of the show. And then when he says Brock, Heyman interrupts and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, my name," comes down to the ring. Him and Jericho have like a little bit of a sort of promo battle for a little bit. And then Heyman basically calls down Lesnar back to the ring. Lesnar comes down, And just before he does his jump onto the apron, Roman Reigns' music hits, and then Roman doesn't even look up. His head's down. He's just pretty much jogging down to the ring, gets in, waiting for Lesnar. And then whilst his music is going on, Lesnar's just circulating around the ring, just like waiting for his opportunity. He jumps up, he does his little 3 jumps on the spot, gets in the ring, and gets speared straight away. And is down for a good bit too. Like, it's not like when it took 3 attitude adjustments to keep him down. Like, he just got speared once and he was on the ground for a bit. Hated that. I'm pretty sure he's taken Roman's spear and got up pretty much straight after Mania, didn't he? I mean, to me, it just made him look a lot weaker than the last time that they met. I know you got to keep Roman strong, but like, he just could have had them going at an even pace. Both would have looked good, and that would have been fine. But we learn that whilst Lesnar was down, the Wyatt family's music hits, and then they attack Roman. I did not expect this one bit. This was a total shock to me. Oh, well, before that, the League of Nations actually comes out and, does that. Totally forgot that about them, because the League of Nations is just so boring and you can just forget about them so easily. But that's when Brock comes up and gets his revenge, his comeback sort of on the League of Nations, and then gets speared again. That's right, he gets speared a second time and then he's out for a while. And then that's when the Wyatts come out, interfere, pretty much destroy both men, and makes the Wyatts, out at the end of the night, makes them look the strongest, because they won over the Dudley boys and Ryback pretty strong in that end sequence. And then in this part, they just destroyed the champion and the Beast. Like that, it's so good to see the Wyatt family get this momentum, because it's what they deserve. I would have no problem if Wyatt wins the title in the Rumble. If anything, I think that's kind of what I'm rooting for most now, is Wyatt, because then but if that happens, then that leads up to a feud with him and Roman again, and everyone's sick of that feud, so that's why I don't think that will be happening. But if he screws over Lesnar in the Rumble, and then the family and Lesnar, like if they have like a 1-on-4 handicap match, because why fucking not, it's Brock Lesnar, then that would be a pretty interesting match for Lesnar to have. I mean, other than that, it was a pretty average Raw. Up until the last part, there was nothing really crazy that stood out. Well, yeah, so that's my review of Raw. Let me know what you think of the episode. Greatly appreciate any feedback, and talk to you guys in the next video.